Okay, so very happy Friday morning to you guys. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on in this market, how the setups are going, and so on. Now, as we have chatted before, guys, there are some there's some good things to there's some good things to do. There's some good trades to take. There's always some good setups. Remember, I'm just there's going to be a lot of examples of this, and we'll talk about this as we go this morning. But remember, we had the webinar a couple of weeks ago, where we talked about taking the framework and the setups that we're looking at and so on. And for those that have more availability, there are things that can be traded in those kinds of setups, right? Even kind of outside of our typical official group trades. So remember, the official group trades, I can't really just open trades and close trades super quickly without giving everybody some sort of ample notice, right? Because we have people all over the world in many time zones, and I don't want to exclude people too much from being able to follow our trades along. So, we take slightly bigger positions, we let them run, there's plenty of time to get in, plenty of time to get out. But there is a lot of opportunity to work with these trades as they are, as they're setting up, as they kind of, do their typical trading fluctuation of, running up and down and running into profit, running into loss. There's lots of stuff that can be done there, and it kind of just depends a little bit on each individual's availability to be at the charts and how active each person wants to be. So I give definitely the overall framework and the specific entries and specific exits, but there is more that can be done in there. So, and I know a lot of people do, and that's good. But I just want to kind of remind everybody that with these setups, with these with this overall structure that we're looking at day in and day out, there's more that can be done in there. But again, it's a little bit hard in a group to just be constantly in and out, jumping in and out of all this stuff. So that's why we kind of look for these bigger setups. But there's a lot that can be done. There's good things that can happen. So just kind of stay at the charts as you can, and work with the market as it kind of plays out. And and you can always take Corey's route. Just don't sleep at all. That makes it easier. I've thought to myself many times. I thought if I was like a 16th zombie or vampire or whatever, whoever doesn't sleep, I don't know, enough that I could like be a normal functioning member of society, but still not sleep. It would be very convenient. Not to mention the middle of the night are just the most peaceful times. I have a bunch of little kids, and so 3 a.m. is actually a beautiful time of of the day, of the night, whatever. So yeah, sleeping can get in the way for sure. But we have so many people in the trade group that are all over the world, right? We have so many time zones and so many different things, and so that's why when we take these bigger setups and these bigger trades, everybody has plenty of time to get in, everybody has plenty of time to get out. But there are things that can happen on top of those specific entries and exits, and we'll talk about what those are, as well as just kind of everything that we're waiting for and watching for and hoping to get in some of these trades. So let's get right down to it. A couple of things to discuss. We had 2 trades this week that they're kind of hard to track down. Speaking of which, so we canceled. I'll leave these in here for a couple of days. It's probably easy to say adios now. We canceled the dollar CAD trade and it never got filled, right? So dollar CAD never got filled. We had the dollar CAD and the euro Swiss this week that didn't get filled, which was such a bummer because I loved the setups and they ended up doing exactly what we wanted them to do anyway, right? So we had, for example, we had this euro Swiss this week, and I thought to myself, Euro Swiss is going to be a great trade, right? I was looking for a little bit of pullback, 40, 50 pips of pullback. Buy some dip on Euro Swiss. We had a nice little, couple interesting little levels down there. I thought, let's get into that. Euro Swiss gave us, see if that'll let us back in here. Euro Swiss gave us almost no pullback and just went, just kind of went straight up. We were looking for a right here to trade it up to at least the monthly pivot, and it didn't pull back. Didn't pull back and hit that weekly pivot, any of that stuff, and it just ran right up to that monthly pivot, right? It just took off and ran 60, 70 pips, and I thought, dang it, I would have liked a little bit of pullback. It didn't give it to us. And I'm going to tell you why I'm specifically talking about these two things here. So Euro Swiss, no pullback, our good typical kind of conservative entries. It just didn't get us there. Didn't get us there. And then we had this guy right here, which was dollar CAD, and we were looking for a little bit of that as well. Dollar CAD was sitting at 132.82 when I posted this. We were looking for an entry at 132.65. The dollar CAD ended up dipping down to, what did the dollar CAD dip down to? So this was our trade. This is our entry. We're looking for that as a target, right? The weekly pivot point. And dollar CAD dipped down. We got it as low as 132.74. So it came within 9 pips of our entry. Missed our entry. We had a nice little market imbalance right there. Thought, hey, that seems reasonable. We can get down there. Came within 9 pips of that. And then from 132.74, it ran up pretty darn quickly to 133.45, and then ultimately into that target of 55 area. So those two charts are kind of examples of a slightly transitioning market. Now, let me tell you what I mean by a slightly transitioning market. We are very cautious and careful about getting our entries. We try to get really good entries and really good exits and maximize our profit. I think we do a pretty good job most of the time at that. But most of the time being careful and being patient with our entries works out really well. The trades still go against us a bit. We still have a chance to scale into them. And everything's great, right? Everything's really good. Being cautious of those entries, just maximizes our potential profit, which is awesome. Now, that is in a slightly more volatile market, right? Which we're kind of transitioning out of a bit. Doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot of volatility and movement, but as we go into summer, as we kind of get into the middle, of middle/end of June, we really start to see that transition from more volatile movements, bigger swings, bigger market imbalance type movements to slightly less volume and slightly smaller moves and slightly calmer swings and so on. And so this week, in missing these two trades by a handful of pips, right? The Euro Swiss and dollar CAD, we missed the Euro Swiss by 40 pips or so, but still, and the dollar CAD by 8, 9 pips. Still, it was kind of a reminder as I watched the charts and as I watched everything, it was a reminder that, oh yeah, we are kind of leaving the typical volatility of non-summer trading, and we're going into the lesser volatility markets of summer trading. And that is a little reminder that we can probably be a little more aggressive on our entries and a tiny bit less conservative. And we'll always still scale in, right? We'll still kind of keep our trade size situation as is, but we will, not be trying to maximize that entry quite as much because we don't want to miss so many of these trades. The trades will still work out well, and if we have to scale in, we'll always be ready to do that on every single trade. But we can be a little more aggressive about where we get in, right? And that's going to be something to keep in mind kind of through, especially through the rest of this month and through July. We'll have a whole month of July where, things will be kind of calm. And then we'll have August, which August is always kind of interesting, right? August can be very, very volatile and crazy and wild, or it can just be really, really calm. But typically we get these kind of wild highs and lows put in August. So for the next kind of 6-8 weeks, we're going to just kind of keep that stuff in mind, right? Volatility is going to be a little lower, volume's a little bit lower. Let's jump on these trades a little more aggressively, and just kind of go for those entries, that aren't exactly at the exact pick that we want. And that's not saying, we're going to get in, 40, 50, 60 pips away from areas that I think are going to be good areas, but we might move trades up 20 pips, 25 pips, kind of just really maximize our probabilities of getting into those trades. Does that make sense? What do you guys think about that? How does everybody feel about that little situation? Está bien. Está bien. So summer's a little bit of a different animal, but I actually like summer trading a pretty good bit, because everything kind of sits in these channels, and this is a little bit of a blanket statement, right? It's not always the case, but it's pretty often the case. Those of you that have traded, anything in summertime, the stock market calms down a bit. There's always some things that will move a bit more than others, but generally speaking, stock market calms down, the currency market calms down, all that stuff kind of just chills out, right? And so in summer, we get these channels, and ooh, I missed some sort of news announcement or something. We're getting this dollar CAD starting to scoot. But in summertime, these channels really just hold nicely. I mean, it's ridiculous to say, but it's almost not ridiculous to say that in the summertime, if you can find, in our typical trading, we're looking for the big levels, right? We're trading off the big levels. In summertime, you can trade off much smaller levels, and they hold much better than they would, in non-summer trading. So it's almost ridiculous to say, but it's almost accurate that you can almost trade any direction in summertime, and it's not going to be too much of a struggle to get it back in your favor and into profit. Now, we would obviously never take that chance of just saying, hey, throw a trade on anyway, and we'll see which, it'll come back for us. But we can have a lot more confidence in kind of the medium levels holding, as opposed to just, always the big levels, right? So, monthly highs and lows, and multiple monthly highs and lows can really be great levels instead of kind of yearly highs and lows that we look for. Okay, everyone good with that? That's a little bit of what's going on. That's a little bit of the outlook that I kind of see happening as I stare at these charts all day and all night. Not all night, because I sleep all night, but that kind of stuff. Lars, that's a good question, and I would say more likely that that's going to be the case. I wouldn't say that it's the most likely case, but it's definitely very, very possible that the dollar is going to hang in there until like August, September. Very, very possible. As we look at the dollar index here, it's bumping around. I mean, what did we talk about? First of all, what did we talk about Monday, right? Monday of this week, we said, okay, first off, the dollar's got to get below the 200 moving average here, number one. Number two, the dollar's got all these missed levels up here. We've got this weekly pivot, market imbalance. We had market imbalance, here. And so it came up and it took out, it hit the weekly pivot pretty well. It took out this market imbalance. It took out that market imbalance. We got one more to go and a weekly pivot. And then it has kind of cleared the airspace, so to speak, and then can hopefully start to make kind of that bigger break. But yes, yeah, Lars, I think we still, if we do get the dollar breaking out before the end of summer, if it happens, if we get that breakout during summer, which it could happen, it definitely could happen, it'll be a really slow, probably, you know, almost tricky kind of a grind here. And so, yeah, that's going to be interesting. I mean, this is such a key level right here. This 200 moving average and kind of these trend lines. There's so much consolidation. If we can just get below there and just start to get that move happening, I think summer or not, it will, you know, it'll be kind of like a slow motion dominoes falling kind of a thing, right? And so we'll be looking for, you know, that kind of movement, and it could happen in the summer. It definitely could happen in the summer. I'll tell you what I want to do, and what I think I'll do, and what I hope to do, is, you know, let's let this dollar, and I'll talk about this euro dollar as I kind of posted it and so on. I'm going to let this dollar index just run up, do its thing, get up here into 90, 97.80, which is just another 50 pips or so. You know, take out that final thing, right? That weekly pivot point. And then I'll probably start peeking at some of these dollar pairs for just kind of that dollar weakness trade. Start trading this, you know, dollar index against its own highs, and against this big double top here, and just see if we can, you know, and again, this is kind of like what I'm talking about for the summertime, right? If the dollar index runs, you know, big double top, we've been looking for that big breakout, just doesn't want to seem to happen. But if it just continues to battle kind of this, you know, this support, this 200 moving average area, and, you know, seems to be holding, I'll tell you one thing I would be very shocked about. And this would have to be hugely news motivated, like a massive political motivated kind of movement, or a big global economic kind of movement. I would be very, very surprised to see the dollar index break this high over the next couple of months. So pretty shocked to see something like that. And again, it would probably need to be a pretty big political or economic event for that to happen. So what can we see here? You know, probably opportunities to watch this dollar index bounce around 87.50, or excuse me, 98.50 and 96.50. You know, we're probably going to see some of this happen on the dollar index for the next several weeks, which is great. And so as the dollar index continues to test these highs, let's look for dollar pairs that are, you know, correlated, that we can trade. I want to short, you know, essentially I want to short the dollar index all along those highs, and just, you know, short that with trades on other dollar pairs, and you know, and just take advantage of that kind of sloshy movement there. I think that'll be great. I think that'll be super great. And it's working its way back up again. So you know, probably the big breakouts several weeks out, 6, 8, you know, maybe even 10 weeks out. But that doesn't mean that there won't be tons of great opportunity in the meantime, which is going to be awesome. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at there. Now, I posted, you know, speaking of this dollar index, and any other questions about that, guys, don't hesitate. Let me know. I want to hear it. Speaking of dollar index, I posted the euro dollar chart, right? I think we posted the euro dollar chart this week. Seems like I did, but yeah, feels like I did. So the euro dollar chart plays out nicely with this dollar index, and what I excuse me, what I posted on this euro dollar was this. And has anybody kind of done this here? Anybody doing anything with this guy? I think on the chart I said I'll be ready to trade this any direction here, and you know, it's kind of been breaking in the last hour here. But 112.50, 113.50. Now, why did I say, hey, this could be interesting to trade either direction? Well, we had something that we don't see super duper often. I mean, we do see it, but it's not the most frequent thing. See this big candle right here? We kind of have this big inside day, right? And I just marked this candle, and I thought this is pretty interesting. This guy right here is, oh, that was the wrong button. This little euro dollar daily candle was really kind of getting my attention. I thought, oh, geez, that's tricky. How do I move this thing? There we go. I thought that's going to be something I want to keep an eye on, right? And good, Dennis. There you go. 112.77. I like it. I like it. And Norbert, yeah, exactly. It's often to see a wedge get retested after a breakout. It's very common to see any kind of level get retested after a breakout, right? Whether it was a double top or a double bottom, when that finally breaks, oftentimes the market likes to come back and just say, hey, what's up? What's up? But this inside candle here was a pretty good one. So we had the inside, or we had this big daily candle, and then we had 1, 2, 3, 4 inside days, right? Where the market was not able to close above the high of that candle or below the low of that candle. And I thought, that's really kind of building up some pressure, and chances are very, very good that when that starts to take out these levels, that it's going to have a little bit of a run to it. And so far, that's kind of been the case. This low right here was about 112.50, the low of that candle, which is why I had that kind of marked the way I did. And we've taken out that 112.50. It's just kind of a few pips below that, but we have some things that I think the euro dollar will want to come down and retest, right? There's a little daily pivot lurking in there. There's not too many interesting market imbalances. I would say that this would be a little level to watch, over here about 11200. But probably, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing run down and just give us a bit of a test of some of this support. Maybe get down into the 111s. You never know. You never know. But again, we're kind of getting into that slightly lower volume, lower volatility kind of market conditions. So this may not have a huge run to it, but it's doing what we expect it to do. Now, here are some things that we like about what is happening here, right? Big inside day. Get a breakout. Hopefully we'll get a breakout of about 100 pips or so, and get this thing running. But there's going to be some missed pivots, some market imbalances that this thing's going to leave. We'll see what they are. There's kind of that little that last movement there before it started making a little bit of a bigger push. We've got some of this stuff creeping over through here. So the more this runs down, takes out that those lower areas, the more excited I am about getting long euro dollar, which would essentially be getting short dollar index. Dollar index up against those highs, euro dollar down against these lows. So yes, there will be some shorter term trading opportunities to trade this lower, right, as it's pushing through this 112.50. So it'll be a little bit more of a short-term type trade. So those that are able to kind of watch and keep an eye on this, go for it. Jump in, take the trade, attack, and then let's see how things play out as this hits that support. But that makes sense. Everyone kind of good with that. So we've got that that dollar correlation, dollar index, euro dollar kind of setup that just looks glorious. But everything looks good. Everything looks good on that. So there should be a couple of pips to be had. Okay, I don't want to drag the morning on too terribly long, but I'm excited about at least one setup on probably 80% of the currency pairs that I have in my watch list here. So we're going to buzz through them. So that this webinar doesn't go on for 3 hours this morning, I'll get through them as quickly as I can. Stop me with any questions, any comments, any thoughts, anything. Just let me know. But this is what's been a little bit frustrating about this week, right? We've been sitting in our trade. We're looking for additional entries. We're missing some of our entries that we wanted to see kind of get us in. it's just a little bit, it's been a little bit of a slow, frustrating kind of feeling week with our typical kind of setups. Nothing's, costing us any money, but we're missing out on some of these good trades because of, some of the lower volume movements. And I'm also just very cautiously and carefully waiting on countless setups to give us movements, countless. So we'll just run through kind of what they are. That's why, I've been updating the chat in Telegram this week and just saying, look at this trade, look at this trade, look at this trade, pending order coming. Here's where, this is what we're going to be trading as soon as it gets there. It seems like there's so many of them. So we'll just kind of, run through everything. Remember, guys, we've got trade after trade after trade in the works, right? We've got Aussie CAD. Aussie CAD. This is a weekly chart. Aussie CAD's coming to 91.50. Here we are just below 9,200 right now. 91.50 is a great support level that takes us all the way back to 2010. Do we want to trade off of that? Hell yeah, we do. This is going to be a great trade, right? This is something that we want to get into, but it's slowly grinding down. Now, we've got oil, we've got China. The Aussie CAD is going to be it's going to be a little bit in the crosshairs of the global economic political situation, right? Oil, commodities, they're going to be a little bit tricky. So we're going to be careful with that. But again, as we go into summertime, when things are much more low volume and it's much less likely to break massive levels, that's the kind of stuff that we want to be ready for. Just, funny thing is I needed to remind myself kind of when these things happen. This low right here on Aussie CAD was July, right? So it hit in July. We had this big sell-off. Look at this wild sell-off, 2013, March, April, big kind of pre-summer movement here from, Aussie CAD went from 107 down to 91.50, right? Where did those days go of like these 1,500 pip movements in like 2 or 3 months? They've kind of left us a little bit, but huge sell-off. July hits, right? And then it comes back up and tests this high, kind of a pre-summer movement into April. And then we come back down to this low in September. August, September is when we usually put in lows and highs for the year. Runs back up, tests this. October, nothing too significant there. Again, pre-summer type movement here. April makes its way down, and again, October is kind of that post-summer, where's things headed. And here we come back down to retest this again in the summertime. So pretty unlikely for this kind of a level to break during summer. So Aussie CAD is a great one. Let's let this thing dip down a little bit more. There's going to be some fantastic entries on Aussie CAD coming this week, this coming week. So I love Aussie CAD. I think that's such a great trade. That's such a great channel. You want to trade a 10-year channel? I do, like crazy. So great things to be had there. So we'll be watching that, looking for that, ready for that, right? We're already in Aussie Swiss. We're in Aussie Swiss, right? Am I imagining that we're in Aussie Swiss? Okay, yeah, all right. We're in Aussie Swiss. Aussie Swiss is not, so again, we're trading this thing around, the all-time lows of this chart. This goes back only to, 2001. My math's a little rusty, but I think that's an 18-year, it goes back 18 years, right? So we're trading this thing off of basically all-time lows. Is that a good time to be trading something? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, the problem is, and what we've seen here, is that these things can be slow. They can be slow in turning on these massive levels. Would we want to be short right here on Aussie Swiss? Absolutely not. But it doesn't mean it's going to, not drag us through the mud a little bit. So we're in at 69.25. We're going to buy this thing again, 150, 200 pips lower, gladly. And this is what I talk about on kind of that, that market psychology type of stuff. Um, I am, you know, praying, hoping, fingers crossed, you know, whatever it is, that Aussie Swiss will move down at least another 100 pips. Please go down another 100 pips because I want to really pile on the trades down here at all-time lows. Does anybody else want to trade at all-time lows? These aren't 10-year lows. These aren't any other. They're, I mean, at the very least, they're 20-year lows, but they're all-time lows for what we can see on our charts here. That's great. I want that. I want that very, very badly. Actually, let me see something really quick. Aussie Swiss, the old ice guys seem to have some pretty good history here. Let's see what we got on the weekly chart. They go, ooh. How come well, I guess that, of course, that's the Swiss, you know, the Swiss stuff. But let's see how far back all the rest of this goes here. We get a little bit more than, there we go. Come on, baby. Let's see what kind of history we've got here. So this takes us back to the early 90s, right? So if you on TradingView, if you go to that ICE feed, usually can go back just a little bit further, but look at that, 1992. So now here we are at, you know, not only just all-time lows of the last 20 years, but now it's like the last 30 years. Now, my chart why do I not have? Where did the Swiss stuff go? Why don't I have the Swiss stuff on my chart? 2015, right? Oh, I think this is mine over here. Weird. They have a different feed situation than mine does, but you know, still massive movement. 84 to 68, big movement on Aussie Swiss. So so anyways, you know, we're trading this thing around the big lows of forever, right? Yes, you know, we've got some charts saying that that the Swiss National Bank movement is down there lower, but this is great. I love this trade. I love everything about this, but again, it's a slow mover and it's going to take some time for this trade to play out. Now, if it does not run 100 pips lower, 200 pips lower, I will be bummed out, but I will also just be prepared to add on the break of this channel, right? So this is a great little channel. I could very much see that happening, and then that, you know, that movement at least to the 7,000, and I really want to get this up into 7,100. So I'll add to the I'll add on the breakout. It's got to be a convincing breakout. It's not just, you know, getting above here. Let's get this thing above here, and we'll add with just some, you know, that would put us just in some pretty small drawdown, you know, of only 20 or 30 pips at the breakout. But I'll add some more there. No problemo, and I'll let you guys know about that. But hopefully this kind of continues pushing lower, which I think it will, and then we can, you know, really get in on those big low levels. So again, you know, it's a little bit slow waiting for this stuff to happen. We've been sitting in this Aussie Swiss for a while, and it hasn't done much, right? Aussie Swiss has kind of been stuck for a couple of weeks here. It's just slowly grinding lower, but this will be a great trade when it finally gives us the move we're looking for. Aussie CAD is going to be awesome. Aussie Swiss is going to be awesome. Aussie Yen has got a little ways to go, right? So we've still got a couple hundred pips to go on Aussie Yen before I get super interested in it. But I'm going to talk about another yen pair in a second that I think is awesome. But Aussie Yen still, you know, still could make a run down into that 7,000, 7,100 area. So maybe another, you know, 300, 400, 500 pips. But I think all the yen pairs are absolutely setting up to be bullish. So as I said, you know, at the start of the week, or maybe last week, I can't remember, I want to do opposite of what everybody is saying to do. I want to buy or I want to short the yen, and I want to short the Swiss franc, and I want to short the dollar. Right now, everyone's saying, it kind of seems like it's time to buy the yen, you know, global craziness, buy the Swiss franc, buy the dollar, and I'm on the opposite side of that. So either everybody's wrong or I'm wrong. So we'll see. And by everybody, of course, I'm, you know, talking the talking heads and financial news and so on. Okay, so Aussie Yen, not super interesting to me, but Aussie CAD, Aussie Swiss, definitely interesting to me. Look at this Aussie New Zealand, guys. I posted a chart about this and said, You know, if we get this down here to 10400, which is that monthly pivot, you know, we've got a market imbalance, you know, in the 103s and 104s. You know, that'll be great. We'll take it. But we're kind of getting this little rising, or excuse me, this falling wedge right here, and I think, is this thing just going to bounce around 105 and 107? And I think that's probably fairly likely of a scenario. So that's where I'm saying, let's see what this thing does. Let's see where this thing goes, and maybe we can have some opportunities to trade. You know, trade this up 100 pips and trade it down 150, 200 pips and trade it back up 200 pips and kind of just jump in on that. Now remember, we'll have some pending orders in this you know, Aussie New Zealand. But for those of you guys that, you know, for those that have a little bit more availability to your charts, a little more time to trade, a little more of that, don't hesitate to jump in here and take these trades. You know, get in here and find this structure. I mean, that's what we talk about on these Mondays and Fridays, right? Here's the structure, here's the setup. You know, to get the group in and get the group out, we need, you know, a little tiny bit of extra precision, I guess, so that everyone can have enough time to get in and out. But for those of you guys that, you know, can trade a little bit more, take this big picture and work with it. Work with it like crazy. Don't hesitate to send me messages. Send me a Telegram message, an email, a message in any of the chats you can find there and say, hey, this is what I'm looking at. Excuse me. And, you know, what do you think? And I'll always get back to you pretty quickly. Some I don't get back to as quickly, but I try. You know, some messages I you know, go a day or so, and I apologize for some of you that have had to wait for me a bit, but I usually get back to everybody as quickly as I can, especially if you have a trade idea that you're looking at, and go for it. And guys, that's why these daily updates are happening as well. I'm just saying, here's the big picture. You know, again, this is what we want to see for the group, but here's the big picture, and there's a lot you can work with in this big picture. Okay. Norbert, I bought at 105.11 because it didn't seem to go below 105. Norbert, that is awesome, man. That is super great. That is super, super great. Kieran, for now, I will be sticking with the official ones. I'm not very confident in my ability. Kieran, that's okay, man. That's okay. And guys, you know, I definitely don't want anybody to feel like, hey, you're you know, you're doing this wrong if you're not taking a bunch of your own trades along with our trades. That's absolutely not the case, right? That's definitely not the case. But, you know, for those that are saying, hey, I feel, you know, I'm here at my charts, I see the setups, you know, I can work with this a little bit. But I'm here to help, guys. I am here to help, and I will post. You know, this is not any kind of, hey, I'm not going to be posting very many trades. I will get as many entries for the group as I physically can, as many entries as I can. But, you know, when we're kind of waiting for some of these entries, or when we're just missing them by a couple of pips because the market just doesn't feel like giving it to us, you know, work with this stuff on your own as well. So as much as you're comfortable with, of course. Okay, so we've got a great channel to trade on Aussie New Zealand. This will be a great one to work with. You know, Aussie dollar, again, we're excited about trading dollar weakness. Aussie dollar is just, you know, it's just lurking at 68.50. We had I'm trying to think, where did we have our trades in the group on the Aussie dollar? We ended up getting out with some small profits, but 68.90 and 70.10, right? And now, here's the Aussie dollar at 68.80, so just a little bit lower than our lowest entry that we had on the last Aussie dollar trade that we had. And this thing's cruising right into this 60, you know, 68, 40, 50 area. I'm going to watch this as low into the 68s as this can get, you know, 68.50. I'll be probably jumping into a trade, honestly. You know, for the group, of course, we'll be posting trades. But 6,800, woo, man, that would be good. That'd be good. Aussie dollar, you know, it's an interesting one. Again, we do have, you know, we do have bigger lows that have been tested, and I bet the Aussie dollar gets to this 6,000 level at some point sooner than later. I would say, and by sooner than later, I would say more like year end, right? Because we kind of get a big push in volatility kind of oftentimes in October, November, December, right? November, December are really good volatility kind of moments. And I could see, I could see the Aussie dollar making a stab at that 6,000 level. And that could happen. But I would be pretty surprised to see the Aussie dollar make a significant break of this 6,800, 6,850 area during the summer. The nice little double bottom, right? 2015, 2018. I mean, both December, right? December 2015, December 2018, and then we're kind of working on this here again a couple of months later. And then this level goes all the way back 10 years. So again, we're at 10-year lows. We'll be buying the Aussie dollar. Count on that. The only thing I don't like about the Aussie dollar, by the way, is that this thing does not leave very many good targets for us. I don't know why. It's a pretty efficient pair. These movements down seem to just hit everything. We have a missed daily pivot, right? That daily pivot hasn't been hit. Hit. And so that's kind of a bummer. But we do have a monthly pivot, and we do have a beautiful market imbalance over here on the Aussie dollar, and we have a daily pivot and a weekly pivot. So we got some big stuff over here in the 7,000s. But this immediate stuff is not giving us anything too exciting. So that's okay. That's okay. We got some good trades to work with, guys. I like the Aussie pairs. Okay, moving on. CAD Swiss is kind of any questions, guys? I don't want to run past anything too quickly. Questions, thoughts? You guys good on all this? Any details? Okay, so CAD Swiss is kind of on my radar, right? Only because I think the CAD Swiss does a pretty good job just doing nothing, right? So this little channel right here, I'm probably going to do a couple of little CAD Swiss trades. I'm getting kind of heavy on the Swiss pairs because I want to trade Aussie Swiss, New Zealand Swiss, CAD Swiss, Euro Swiss, everything. But this is a great little channel to trade for the meantime. This could be something to trade with with a nice little stop loss. Not that you really even need to trade with a stop loss on the CAD Swiss because it is such low volatility, but we get this thing back down, let's just trade it up to these highs, right? Let's trade this thing from 73, 7,400 up to 7,600, and from 7,600 probably back down to 7,400, and kind of just work with that. So I think this is going to be a nice little trade. It's not too far away from all that stuff now. I mean, here it sits at 74.50, and these lows are, these lows are 73.85-ish, 73.80. But any dips here, I think the CAD Swiss should be a good buyer. We've got this daily weekly pivot combo right here that's 30, 40 pips lower. Let's get it back down to that, and let's just buy the dang CAD Swiss. Let's just do it. Let's do it. Again, just kind of finding these channels, working with these channels, and in a worst case scenario, if the CAD Swiss really went bananas, which is pretty unlikely, but if you get into this thing at 74, this thing runs down to 71.50, wouldn't be the worst case scenario because then you could pile on the movements. This is a multi-year low here, and you can really pile on the trades for that 8,000 level. And then, of course, we've got some bigger areas, but I just don't see the CAD Swiss making a big move, especially this summer. Paul, my thoughts on Euro Aussie. Somebody brought up Euro Aussie to me the other day, and it was kind of an interesting looking chart. So yeah, we'll talk. In fact, that's the next one on the list here, so we can just talk about it. But these are kind of the levels we have, guys. We have all these channels, we have all these things to work with and look for. There's a lot of stuff to be doing. I would say if I had to do something with Euro Aussie, it would be shorted, right? We've got some stuff going on here, and if I really had to do something here, I would short the heck out of the Euro Aussie because, again, these are market imbalances, big market imbalance, big market imbalance. There's some pivots in there. And, again, we're going into summertime, and this is the time where these guys don't typically go, too crazy on the movement. So, and I'm glad you brought this one up, Paul. I don't trade the Euro Aussie very often. But when you have these kinds of levels and these kinds of areas to be trading around, it's worth doing. It's worth doing. The funny thing is, I don't like trading the Euro Aussie, and I don't trade it very often. And the few times that I have traded the Euro Aussie, I've made incredible amounts of money. I had a Euro Aussie trade I was in for probably 3 months one time, and I closed out the whole trade with probably 6 or 8 positions for tens of thousands of dollars. It was an amazing trade. It was one of my better trades. It was a couple of years ago. But when you look at this kind of stuff here, you start to think, there might be something. There might be something. Here's our 2015 high, 2018 high, same thing, kind of December, or excuse me, no, it's not December, it's August. And then December here. I think the Euro Aussie, this could make our radar, guys. It could make our radar. Paul, I'm glad you brought it up. I am glad you brought it up. Sharon, that's a good question. Nice to see you, Sharon. Good to see you. Do I look at projected economic sentiment? Yes, I always do. I read financial news for at least an hour or two every day. So I'm as up to speed with as much of that stuff as I can be. The only thing about the financial news type of stuff is it's a little bit tricky. Remember that, hedge funds and banks, banks produce these massive, these investment banks will produce these massive economic reports, right? These huge economic reports. They have hundreds of analysts working on that, giving it their best shot, and so the economic sentiment stuff is tough to predict. And it's also very finicky, right? It's hard to tell what investors are going to be focusing on. Is lack of job creation going to be the big factor, or are interest rates, or elections, or whatever, exports, and it's always kind of tricky to kind of keep an eye on that. And which one, the big money is really going to be focused on. And so that's why the technicals will keep us on track, but it is good to know the economic picture as well. But I always just say, I go right back to trade what you see, trade what you see. So, and I'll tell you, we see some good stuff here. This Euro Aussie is super interesting. So, so it's gonna be a nice little channel that we're gonna have to work with here on this guy, and I like that. I like it. Yes, the economic stuff can be pretty tough to kind of get a clear picture out of, for sure. Now, here are my thoughts with the economic, with kind of the fundamental numbers versus the technical kind of outlook. I think the fundamental outlook is more long-term, and the technical is a little more precise, shorter-term stuff. And by shorter term, I don't mean day trading, but I mean more like, multiple month kind of movements can be more technical. If we're looking for the big picture, we're going to get into a trade and we're going to hold it for our retirement kind of a thing, then, the fundamentals can be pretty crucial for that. So yes. So that's what we're looking at. That's what we're doing. But Euro Aussie is looking like a good little setup. So once again, we have so much stuff we can work with here. Let's just kind of stay with it. The only other Euro, as I mentioned, I'm still interested in Euro Swiss. So we've got a lot of stuff going on with this Euro Swiss that I think is interesting. Nice little weekly, daily pivot up here. Nice weekly pivot up here. Just hit that monthly pivot. I want to get this thing down a little bit more and up. So we'll look for kind of a bearish Euro trade, probably on Euro Aussie, because I like getting bullish all the Aussie pairs. And I really want to get bearish the Swiss franc, and I think the Euro Swiss could be a good opportunity to get bearish the Swiss franc. Euro, I think, is probably going to just get pushed around a lot over the next few months. I think we're going to get euro, some euro dollar movement, some euro Swiss movement, some of these guys kind of euro Aussie, but I think it's going to be driven by the others. I think the euro Aussie is going to be the Aussie move, and the euro Swiss is going to be more the Swiss move, and euro dollar is going to be more of the dollar move. So I think the euro is just going to kind of blow with the wind, Good, Corey, good. 37 pips out of the euro Aussie. That's awesome. Good work, man. Good work. Okay, so loving all these setups. We've talked about euro dollar. Let's see this thing get down here just a little bit more. There could be some more scalps and some more short-term trades to get this down there, but we've got to get this running back up. And so, I think that's going to be the dollar movement that we're looking for. So we talked about that. Not really touching the pound pairs, and we're still pretty interested in these New Zealand pairs. So big, massive targets up above on New Zealand CAD. Market imbalance, missed pivots galore, market imbalance. And again, the thing that I always say is it's going to hit those targets, and the only question we have for ourselves is, are we going to be in the trade or not? That's it. Are we going to be in the trade or not? So I'm looking for 8,600. I'd really like to see Euro or New Zealand CAD get to 8,600 before I start buying this thing, but it might happen sooner. 8,600. So watching that, looking for just a little break of this double bottom. Let's get this into this market imbalance down here, and then we'll start buying this thing. And I think we've got a nice run. It could be a slow, steady mover, but I think we get this back up into the 9,000 level. But again, with summertime, it might drag us out a bit more, but I think we can get up into that 9,000 level with an 8,600 or sub 8,600 entry. So loving that one. I feel like, okay, I did post this. All right. New Zealand Swiss. I love this one. This is such a great looking entry, such a great looking trade. We've got a pending order on New Zealand Swiss about 90 pips below current price. Now that might think, it could seem like a half of a lifetime to get it down there, and it might be, I'll be honest. But I want to buy into New Zealand Swiss at 64, let's say 9,400. Anyway, 6,400. We've got some good levels coming through here. And again, we're trading pretty close to some of these big lows. We've had these big wild spikes. These Swiss national banks, these wild kind of Swiss franc spikes that get this New Zealand Swiss down into kind of that 5,700. But again, I would say that that's super duper unlikely to happen during the summertime. Huge bearish engulfing candle. That should really help. That's a weekly bearish engulfing candle, by the way. So that should really help kind of getting this thing down through some of these levels and down into those, 64-ish area. And we'll start at 64 and we'll be prepared to scale in, at 63 and that kind of stuff. And I think this is going to be a great little trade. I'm pretty excited about New Zealand Swiss. The thing that I am going to be cautious about is not missing this trade, right? Because in case it feels like it doesn't want to run to the bottom of this channel and into that 6,400, I want to get into it a little bit sooner. So that's where I'm watching kind of this channel and these breakouts and so on. Good? Everyone good? So, again, just trades galore. I love New Zealand yen. Who's with me on New Zealand yen? I think this is one of the most interesting trades. Again, bearish engulfing weekly candle. Don't love that, but I'll be patient on this thing. I'll be patient. We'll let this thing run down another 100 pips. But I just feel like when you are, when a currency pair is approaching, levels that are 10-year levels, they're always worth paying attention to. So I'm not going to dive into this thing too much, because that's a pretty bearish little look there on the weekly chart. But all the New Zealand pairs have come down kind of hard, which has been great. But as we hit that big 10-year, past resistance now support level, we want to be in on the action. We want to be in on the action big time. So just loving all of these. I mean, I'm almost tired of talking about how much I'm excited about these setups, and just waiting for them has been kind of a pain in the rear. Yeah, don't go all in. Just go mostly all in. So yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah. Let's have a look at this and be ready to trade this. Of course, same thing. These New Zealand candles are all pretty aggressive. So we've got a big aggressive candle on New Zealand dollar. I'm watching, big double bottom, 6,400-ish area here, and then watching, if this needs to make kind of final panic, freak everybody out, push into 6,200. Which again would put us back at 10-year lows. So 6,400, 6,200, all within the wheelhouse there of good potential, potential trades. So pretty dang excited about New Zealand dollar as well. So New Zealand dollar, New Zealand Swiss, New Zealand yen, New Zealand CAD. I mean, New Zealand dollar is going to hit that target, and it's going to hit that target and that one and all the other big upper targets. And it's just if we want to be in on the movement or not. So I'm excited about all of these. I would say that's probably the majority of them for now. But there's a lot of great setups. You guys with me on this? So guys, don't hesitate. I know some people probably get a little bit bored. I get a little bit bored waiting for these setups to kind of play out. Give us the entry. Give us the opportunity to get in, jump out, call it good. I get a little bit tired just kind of waiting for these things to happen. But remember, two important things to remember is, number one, you can jump in on these structures, on these types of setups that we talk about daily. And, of course, in the live sessions at the start of the week and at the end of the week, you can do a lot with these setups on your own. And I'm happy to help in any way I can and so on. That's right. Netflix is there for us. Netflix won't leave us hanging. That's for sure. And number two, guys, the other thing to remember is that we've got these huge, massive, wonderful, excellent setups in the works, right? And the other thing to remember is that, in trading and in my experience and in the experience of so many other traders, and I know that this is just how it goes, 80% of the money is made in really about 30% of the time. So it's not the full pure 80-20 rule. It's not 80% of our money is made 20% of the time. But really 80% of our money is made, 30 or 40% of the time. And that other, 60 or 70% of the time, we're making some profits, we're making some trades, we're doing some stuff. But really the majority of the time, we're waiting, we're taking small trades, we're doing stuff. But, those 3 or 4 months every year that everything really just cranks, that's when we're really ready to go heavy. And so all these trades that are coming up, I mean, we have amazing alignments here, amazing setups and alignments. And so we're probably going to have a 3 or 4 month period where things just rock and roll, and then we could have months and months of just whatever, right? And so just remember that the majority of your money is made in the minority of the time, right? In the most sporadic of moments. And so that's why I mountain bike and golf and surf when I'm near the beach and do all that stuff, because and I set chart alarms, right? I've got chart alarms on my here's my alarms on TradingView. I had a bunch that were just kind of reminders, happen overnight, so I've only got maybe 10 or 12 set right now. But I always have 15, 20 alarms set, because I do my research, I do everything, and then I say, now we wait. Now we wait. And sometimes we wait and wait and wait, and sometimes it's frustrating, and sometimes it's blah. But the majority of your money will be made on those chunks of big setups and big movements like we're seeing right now. Yes, August is a great time to take a vacation, because that's usually ridiculous trading. I really hate August trading, by the way. It's horrible and awful and terrible. So, Bob, is there a 3 to 4 month time that is yearly? So Bob, yeah, and I think if the question you're asking is it 3 to 4 consecutive months? No, summer. I mean, there are kind of seasons, I guess. You know, summer's slow, but there's tons of good trades in summer. I mean, right now we have massive setups happening going into summer, which is always interesting. But, you know, it's kind of a super, you know, great month or two here, and then a great month here, and then a great month there. And, you know, in a good year, we might get, you know, 5 or 6 months of good trading. But, you know, we're never going to see more than 50% of the year with great, excuse me, you know, great setups and great trading. So you just never know when it's going to be. If you try to time it, you'll miss the good setups and be there for all the bad setups. So yeah, no particular month. I mean, we do have kind of the pre-summer pushes. You know, April, May are typically good. You know, they were a little bit weird this year, but April, May is typically pretty good. November, December is typically pretty good. And then it's just kind of sporadic throughout there, right? So August is typically horrific. July, you know, oftentimes pretty slow, but there's great setups in July. We take good trades in July. We make money in July. So yeah. That's how it's looking. That's how it's going. All right. So yeah, what do you guys think? Questions, comments, thoughts? Everybody feel prepared and ready for the weekend and ready for some of these big trades? We've got great trades setting up. They're going to be in summertime. They could be slow to play out, but what the heck else do we have to do, right? You know, we'll put our trades on and we'll just let them make us money. So, but again, with these big setups, there's short-term trades to be had in there, and so I want you guys to kind of know you can do that. And I'm happy to chat with you about those trades. I'm happy to talk about them during the webinars. I'm happy to do whatever you guys need. Okay, guys, I think that's it for me. Very wonderful, happy Friday to you guys, and a happy weekend, a good weekend, and all that good stuff. And we'll take it from there. We'll see how it all goes, and let's rock and roll. Let's rock and roll. Good to see you, Lester, and good to see everybody. Corey, Bob, Mel, Jim. Good to see all you guys. Sharon, lovely to see you. Great to see everybody. I hope you guys have a really good weekend. James, Norbert, and we'll be back here Monday. And I'm pretty super excited about the trades that we have coming. So I hope you guys are as well. Great to see everybody. Have a good weekend. Take care, guys. We'll catch you guys later. See you, everyone.